And okay,
Okay, it's recording.
okay. Yeah, now it's recording. Thank
Mhm.
you, Justin.
You're
All
welcome.
right. All right. Um, so should we start? I'm a little nervous. I don't know if we're gonna do this right. I hope we do. So thinking of the 8 elements, we all here, right? Yes. Okay, awesome. So if you see me looking at my computer, I just said I wrote notes when I was reading through it and stuff because I didn't want to forget things. So to begin with, it's important to know that as humans, we all drawn to use all these elements. Like we use it in our everyday life all the time. Like everything that we do has a purpose. Like we all have different perspective. We all have different orientation, different beliefs. We make assumptions all the time. You know, we always asking questions. What is this? Why is that? So so to me, um, to say maybe we can just do one by one and I'll say my point of view and purpose and then everybody does that the same thing so we don't talk and talk and talk and then everybody's going to talk over the same thing. So I'll say my part of purpose and then I allow you girls to do whatever. So for me, purpose is the underlining of all the other elements. Like I was saying, like everything in life has a purpose. Like we here because we have a purpose. We are meeting right now because we have a purpose. We need to turn in an assignments. So I guess that is the whole idea in reasoning. And when I look into these with my career for my classroom as a future teacher, I think that every question that we have targets a purpose. Like what is the purpose of us doing a lesson? Like how we're going to be creating that lesson has a purpose. Um, why I'm doing this? Like, what will be the purpose for my student doing this assignment or how they're going to take this task. So for me as a teacher, it's very important that we state our goals, our objectives for the class very clearly, and that we do them in a realistic way. Like, okay, so I have to be realistic with my students. I'm going to have a goal. I'm going to have an objective for a lesson, but I need to make sure that that lesson that I'm preparing is basically something that they can actually do. So that's my point of view on purpose.
Like it's the way you view something and being aware that not everyone is going to think the same way that you are. So if you are creating that lesson and you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be great, but someone else is like, no, that kid can't do that. I feel like that makes it where you have to have that communication. With the purpose, for me, it's the why. Why am I doing this? What is the outcome going to be? I currently work as a paraprofessional at the junior high level, and like my why, I have to remind myself every day, I'm here for the students. I'm here to make them successful. So just always remembering that, like, you're not there for friends, you're not there for a paycheck, you're there because your students need you to be there and to show up every day. But like with point of view, not everyone shares that same point of view. So it makes it difficult when you may be the only one that student sees is actually caring about them, um, which makes it difficult to do your job if they're, or even the student itself, if their point of view on the situation is differently, if they don't say, I can't, or I don't want to do this assignment because it's stupid, well, then that's a different point of view and that's their why. So just being mindful that not everyone is going to view things the same that you do, as you do. And that's what I have for that.
What I wrote down was not just like for me to learn my purpose. I want my students to walk in their purpose. So like
Mhm.
maybe at the beginning of the school year, I can do maybe a little assignment to where they let me know what their purpose is, and I try to guide them to their purpose throughout the school year. Whether it's a personal purpose or educational purpose, I want to be there for my kids, not just on a teacher student level. I mean, we're not gonna be friends, but I want y'all to be able to come to me and feel comfortable coming to me, and I can help y'all in ways that either your parents can help you or y'all can help yourself. Because it's not about just education. It's students out here that don't get the guidance and the help that they need at home, and they look for it at school. You know?
Yep, I agree.
And I think it's also good, like, for the students to know what their purpose is and know, like, for them to have a reason to want to do something because it's a good, like, well, at least for me, it's a good motivation. Like, if you set goals and you set, like, not perspective, objectives for yourself, like, it helps motivate you to do more and to do better.
Yeah, I mean, purpose can really help you, drive you to like your goal. It's gonna help the students see beyond education. Is about being like, okay, I want to be a good person. I want to be the best possible. So I think purpose can help them out with that.
I think too, like in lessons, like they may not see like why you're doing a lesson on money right now. Because that actually happened yesterday. One of my kiddos was like, why are we learning about this? Like, I don't care about money. I'm like, well, are you gonna ever like have a job? Are you ever going to have to pay for things? Like they're like, oh, maybe I should learn how to count this money right now. Or because I teach in the junior high, so like they need those life skills, and I teach in the life skills class. So just letting them see too, like we're not just teaching you just to teach you stuff you're never going to use. Like you're going to use this one day.
Yeah, and it's very important that we teach that like everything that we do in life has a purpose. Like I mean, I do it because I did it once when I was in school. Like learning math is, a hot topic. Like, oh, why am I learning these? I don't do equations in a daily life, but everything has a purpose. So I think it's just the way that we teach it that it can make the difference. All right, so we can go ahead and move on to question at issues, problem, issue, and misconceptions. So for me, the idea with the element of question is that we have to keep in mind that everything that we do is question, and everything that we do, we question. Like we have questions for everything. Like, okay, so why am I have curly hair? Why do I have to go to school every day? Why do people have to work and stuff like that? So the idea with this one for me is that we need to kind of be open to multiple points of view and address all the questions and all the issues that we might encounter in our classroom with an open mind. Because we have to, like, we're going to be precisely communicating with students and with staff administrators that are different, and we're going to have to learn how to be comparing things like, okay, so how can I deal with this issue? How can I solve this problem? And the idea for us is to have the students or teach them to be problem solving, so on their own, because we're not going to be there for them all the time. So I believe that it's just the way that we going to help the students develop in their own intellectual virtue, and how they can become critical thinkers, how they can go into a deeper level of understanding those problems, how to solve them, and those issues that they might encounter in life.
Yep, I agree. And then too, answering the questions when students ask, well, why do I have this accommodation, or why do I have this? Being able to say, well, thank you for like understanding that. Let's talk about it. And like, why does this other student not get that? So questions are everywhere, and they also feed into the purpose of things too. I think everything in this thing ties together. Like all of them tie into together somehow.
Okay, anybody else wants to add more to that part?
I can say what I wrote down. When it comes to questions, I think like being the adult in the classroom, it's because I said so. And I don't think it should be like that. I feel like we should always give our students an explanation because there's a reason that they ask the question. They're not asking it just to ask it, you know? And also when it comes to like, I know in my classroom, I don't want like surface level answers or surface level questions. So I don't want to give off surface level questions and answers. I want my students to use their critical thinking skills when it comes to things that I ask. Because if they ask me something and I give them a surface level answer, and I ask them something, I have to expect a surface level answer. So
Also,
Yeah,
oh, sorry.
sorry, I was just gonna say, and so there it comes us as teachers, like we have to be continuously asking us, like, what is the purpose of this lesson for my student? You know, is there a better way to do things? Is there a better way to address an issue and stuff like that?
I was just gonna say that I think it's important also to let the students know like there's no such thing as like a stupid question, a dumb question. And because I feel like I've definitely been in classrooms where I feel like scared or nervous to ask questions just because of how they've responded maybe to another student. So
Mhm.
it's important for us to understand that everybody's gonna have questions. And so we need to make sure that they're comfortable to ask us those questions.
Especially because someone else in the room probably wants to ask that same question, and that will be beneficial for that student if that person stands up like, hey, and asks that difficult question or the stupid question. Because I'm that way. I have social anxiety, so I'm not going to ask a question, but I know someone else probably will,
Will
so I just
do.
hang tight.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess what also questioning is important for them to know, hey, you know what? Even if it's not just about asking for help, is they're wanting to learn more. They're wanting to expand their education with it, or just in general. So it's good for them to be open to ask questions.
Yes, I agree. Totally agree with that. So, anything else, or should we move on?
we can move
Okay.
on.
So the next one is information, right? Facts, data, evidence, observation, reasons, and experience. So, with the thought of information, I think it's very important to know that the information that we provide as teachers is very clear, that we use information that is relevant to our students, like what are they going to learn these? Is this, you know, accurate for them to learn it? It's this appropriate for them to learn? So it's, for me as a teacher, it's important that that I know and understand that information has to be linked to my goal. Like the goal of our learning in the classroom and our objective, is it what I'm teaching requires this type of information? You know, like what is the ability of my students learning through this information? What are they going to be learning? Um, and I believe a big amount of our teaching is based on observations and collecting data, because that's what we're going to be doing all the time. Like once we collect data, it's when we actually be able to interact with our students in a deeper level and we get to know them. And that is going to help us how to teach a lesson, and you know, and what do they actually need to be taught.
The information, like the data you mentioned, also kind of helps us know like where are they at cognitively, where are they at functionally, how can I adjust what I'm doing to meet that specific child's need. But not only like the academic side of it, but I want to know the information about their home life, so I can know, is that kid not eating breakfast in the morning, so I can have snacks available. So the more information about the student, I believe, will help me make them more successful, because I will give them those tools that they need, even if it's just a hug in the morning when they walk in, because they need that. But yeah, information is definitely very important in all aspects of education.
to piggyback off of you, I love that you said, you want to dig into what they have going on at home. I think it's very important because a lot of teachers don't do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of teachers are just there to do their job. They don't really care about what's going on outside of school. And some kids aren't even open to expressing it unless it's brought to their attention. You know?
Yep. It's sad.
Yeah. Like now, because back then and when I was in school, I didn't really understand why teachers would be in people business. But now that I'm in the education field and I can see that how the students are coming in the mornings tired or just misbehaving, like I see now why the teachers was so in people business. And now I'm one of those teachers. So,
But you'll be that teacher they remember for the rest of their lives.
Oh yeah.
oh, that's
Yep.
the goal.
La cosa que la trae era cierra esa puerta que tu papá puso muy antes. Sorry, ladies. It's just
That's okay.
No, you're
uh,
good.
you can hear it, but my husband's TV is really loud. So, all right, let's continue. So should we move on to interpretation and inference solutions and conclusions?
Yeah.
Okay, so oops, what happened to her?
Lost someone.
Did somebody?
It's kind. She'll come back. Um, so when it comes to interpretation, for me, it's important that we do not come into conclusion and the way that we interpret things, like how we think of some, of something. Like, okay, so my way of interpreting something, it might be different from others. So in my classroom, I think it will be very important that that I question myself to what conclusion I'm coming to. Like, for instance, when giving a student's assignment or a quiz or a test, I will be asking myself, like, what the conclusion will be, what would the results, will tell me, or let's say, how I want to help the students to figure out some sort of topics that is maybe hard for them. It's just very important that we teach our students how not only to come into conclusion, but that they have to have facts, or they have to provide evidence. They have to state things that are, that are in fact realistic. And that's how I do, how I believe this will apply into my classroom. Like, okay, so everything has a conclusion, everything has a solution. So if we are addressing an issue or something, we have to come up with a better solution, or we have a good solution that is, good for everybody, that it's positive for everybody.
I also took it as when it comes to like interpreting data, you may interpret it kind of like point of view a different way than someone else. So your view on what that student's test score was or what their abilities are may be completely different. It's just, I guess, it's all about interpretation. But also, like, you may know a student better than another teacher and they're interpreting their behavior is a big deal, like it's terrible, but you're like, okay, well, I know that student didn't eat breakfast this morning, so I'm interpreting the situation completely different. Which helps with like at the end of your day, like having that meeting with your team saying, hey, like, look, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on. This child, X, Y, and Z. So that way everyone can be on the same, hopefully on the same field as like understanding what's going on. So communication is key. Welcome back.
Sorry about that. It's blocking me out for a second. All right. So wait, where are you at right now?
Interpretation.
Got it. Okay. See.
Anything else to add to that?
Not on my end. I feel like y'all hit all the good key points in that one. So
Yeah, I basically just since it is like the elements of thought, like everybody's thought processes are different. So, you know, someone I can interpret a situation one way and then Ashley can do it a different way, Mahogany can do it a different way. So it's good to keep an open mind that not everyone's going to have the same thought process, not everyone's going to think the same.
Yeah, your way may not be the best way. Sorry.
All right. So I guess we can move on to concept definitions, models, laws, theories, and principles. So when it comes to concepts, it's very important that in my classroom, I be clear with my ideas, that I make sure that the ideas that I'm using make sense. Like what I'm teaching is ideally making sense for my students. Like I want to make sure that the concepts that I use in my classroom are actually needed, that they are going to be key for my student success. And of course, you know, I want to be asking myself, what am I going to be doing? Or you know, how my students are going to develop in a specific topic, or or stuff like that. And I believe that when giving definitions, we also have to be comply to be open-minded, because sometimes the students will ask questions, and because of our different beliefs and the way that we see things, we might do it differently, and it's not what they are expected to hear, or they do it, or they know it but in a different thoughts. So I think that's kind of very important. We when we do it clearly. Like, okay, so there's a law. I'm not gonna be saying, oh, okay, I believe this law is like this, and that's what my student have to take off. No, I have to allow my students to be open to see how people have different ways of seeing things, specifically in the concept area, because everybody has a different definition for things. Everybody have theories that are different from others, and that's how I see it.
A word that stuck out to me in this one was theories, only because like I plan to teach math, and as we all know that there is different ways to get to one answer.
Mhm.
So I may teach it one way, but another student may know it another way that can help another student. So I want to allow my students to have a voice, and they don't have to take it. They don't have to learn it the way I taught it, as long as they get the same answer I get. Because I know, like, even in one of my classes last semester, it was either you write the steps how I wrote the steps, or it's automatically wrong. I don't feel like that's right. If we got the same answer, then the question is right.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, and going based on your idea is students are gonna learn that there's different ways to learn different, especially for math. There's multiple ways you can get one answer, and you're not wrong. It's at least the way how you express yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we can move on to assumptions. Okay, so this is kind of tough, because like I said at the beginning, um, we all make assumptions, at some point of our life. Like sometimes we do it without not even knowing that we are doing it. Like, oh, like I believe Ashley was saying something about, oh, this student didn't do this because, or maybe they see it, oh, he's just feeling that way because he didn't eat breakfast, or oh, he just came like that because he didn't sleep last night, or he's having issues at home. Sometimes we do it and we make the assumptions without not knowing, but we need to be aware that um, we have to be careful how we make the assumptions, how we put it out there for the kids. Like, what are if those actions can, can be taken for granted. But at the same time, we have to be very careful how we do it, how we explain some things, like, okay, still this student didn't come to school today. I remember yesterday they said they were moving, and stuff like that. So let's say that's exactly how I see it. I hope that in my classroom I not assume that all my students know or do not know something in a specific. That's another big topic here. Like, okay, so I'm not going to assume that all my students know these because I just started last week. We have to, make sure that whatever we say is realistic, and that the actions that we are following are compliant with our students, and that they all learn in different levels.
Your assumptions kind of shape your point of view. So, like if I've heard, oh, this student coming into your class, he's like the bad kid, like I'm gonna already have that in my mind, and I'm gonna see that kid's not what they said. Like, so you're already assuming something before they even come to your class, which is not good. You don't want that to happen. You want to start with a clean slate for every student that comes into your classroom, so you don't have those other people's point of views or assumptions in your head.
Yeah, and that goes too with us managing our parent relationship too. Because I remember last year, well, not last year, the year before, I was working with a SPED, and I remember the teacher coming up to me and say, hey, teachers before this have told me that this mom is this and this mom is that. And I told her, hey, it's just going to be what it is, and we're just going to pass it down, And it turned out the mom was the sweetest mom ever. So we cannot be making assumption or taking it for granted just because somebody said so.
I agree.
When it comes to assumptions, I especially like because I don't plan on teaching little kids, but a little kid can take what they hear and run with it. So like if you say, or if you're talking to a teacher and you're like, "Oh, I think Billy is getting abused at home," now he's gonna go home and tell his parents that you said it, and now it's non-true information going around. But before I continue to talk, I don't know if y'all seen Jocelyn's message that says she can only
Yes,
record for
yes,
30 minutes.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I think
So are you
we
How
should be
long?
like at 20 something. So I think we're okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So we have 2 more to go to. Oh, okay.
So is it like you should? Yeah, we
Oh,
got
yeah.
10 minutes left.
Oh,
It just popped up on my
okay. It
screen.
said that we said we have 9 minutes left.
Yeah,
Okay.
10 minutes. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's do this. We have this.
Um,
Okay, so go ahead.
I was just gonna for the assumptions part. I feel like that's a really big one. Um, when like for our thought processes, at least for me, I am very quick to assume something just because I'm just like, like if I get a call from a doctor and they're like, "Oh, you need to call me ASAP," I'm like, "Oh my god, something's wrong." Like I'm just quick to assume something. So I feel like if me as an adult, I'm like that, little kids are gonna be very quick to assume things as well. And so it's just important to keep that in mind.
Definitely. All right, something else? So should we move on to number 7?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to number 7, implications and consequences. All right, so implications and consequences. Thinking of what the consequence will be of teaching a lesson some sort of way. Like, what will it happen if I do this way? In the same manners, I believe that I will teach my students that every action has a consequence. It can be positive, but it can also be negative, because when we talk about consequences, we always think of it in the negative way. And I think it's important that we teach them that there's positive consequences as well. So I also would like to allow myself to understand that the way that I portray myself and the input that I give into my classroom and my students will also have consequences, like the way that I act with them, how I imply to do well, will that result in a positive environment in my classroom? and stuff like that.
I like that you said that about positive consequences because I mean I knew that's a thing, but like thinking about if I study hard, I'll get a good grade. Like that's something you can like let your kids know, like, hey, like you can do hard like stuff and you have a reward for it. Because I know consequences at home is like most time is probably a negative. You're in trouble kind of thing. But that I like that you said that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Positive reinforcement allows students to like want to work harder
Mhm.
in class and outside class. So I know in my household, when I was a kid, my mom definitely encouraged positive reinforcement. Like if I did the dishes, I got paid for it. So it
Mhm.
made me want to do the dishes every week.
Yeah, I mean, I like how you said the whole thing about we often see the negative consequence. We rarely see a positive side of it. So if kids are seeing that side of it, they're gonna be like, okay, well, they're gonna want to strive more for it, saying, okay, there's a good outcome out of this too.
Mhm. Alrighty. Should we move on? Yes, okay, so let's wrap up this with point of view, perspective, our orientations and stuff like that. So when it comes to the points of view, it's very important that we respect and address all different perspectives with reasoning. As a teacher, for me, it is very important that I question myself about how I look into a situation. Will I consider how others are viewing it too? You know, I cannot be limiting my point of view to just what I believe. Like, okay, I cannot say this is how it's going to be because this is what I said is going to happen, and my point of view is the only one that has a reasonable, meaning. So we have to come to the classroom with an open mind and take that into consideration that everybody, especially when we are in the classroom with students, we have multiple students, different cultures, they're coming from everywhere, so all their perspective, their orientation is going to be different from us, Even us, we are, studying for something and we are taking the same classes, but still we see a different way.
Mhm.
Everything is going to pop out different. I remember saying one time, even though I have the same, let's say, to create an art and craft, I have the same materials. I'm going to do it on my own and I'm going to do it on my way. You maybe do the same thing, but it's going to be totally different, even though we use the same thing, So we have to be open to that and seeing that in our classroom all the time.
I want to teach like in my class that, how do I say it? I want my students to know that there are different point of views to different scenarios. There isn't always a right or a wrong answer. And other people's point of views also matter, even though it's not the same point of view as yours. Because I know being the youngest sibling is my way or the highway. So if it don't make sense to me, it don't matter. But I don't want to teach that in my classroom.
Okay. Anything else? Should we wrap up this thing? I don't know how long we still have.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. I guess it was good. We just need to take into consideration that all these elements are relevant and that they are all connected in some way. For me, that's how I see it. They are all connected.
I wrote down that reasoning helps us to understand and make sense of things. So we can having these different thought processes give us a meaning for why we're thinking the way that we think or whatever situation we're in.
For me, I guess kind of piggybacking off of like when we were talking about interpretation, because the way that I interpreted this was like there's no, because obviously they're all listed the 8 thoughts of elements of thought, but I feel like there's not a specific order of how we think about things. Like maybe you could think about purpose first, but I'm assuming something first. So like I feel like there's not a specific order of how we think about something.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, as we were going through all of these, no matter what, even though they're all separate like topics, they were all connected. Even when we were talking about point of view, I was thinking about concepts when we were talking about certain things. It was always all connected to each other, so it's really cool to notice that.
Agreed. All right. I think then that's a wrap, and we did it.
Now, this is a long
Hey.
recording, so I don't know how long it's gonna take me to like.
Yeah, I think it's just the link that we have to do it. Either way, if you need help, just let us know and we'll get to help.
Yeah,
So
I don't
we
know how to
have to
get.
upload in YouTube first, right?
Let me
Yeah.
stop. Okay, I guess everybody just say bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.